Time.
Welcome back to One Leg at a Time, the podcast about health, wellness, fun, recovery, and music. I'm your host, Dr. Deen Anbar, and I'm interviewing other musicians and creatives about their process, their priorities, and the things that they do to achieve their goals. And today we have Vicky Ceci Bendita.
Woo!
Yeah, hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
You have not been in LA.
Mm-mm.
Where have you been?
I moved to Nashville.
Did you officially move?
I moved.
So what was that decision process?
I feel like I've been pretty unhappy living here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking about moving somewhere where it's just better quality of life, because I feel like LA just doesn't give me that, you know?
You're from LA, right?
I was born in Venezuela and then I grew up here.
Okay.
Yeah, I moved here when I was 5. Did most of my schooling here.
Yeah.
I moved away for college. I was in Argentina for a bit, and then I moved to Berkeley, and then I was at Berkeley for a little bit.
Berkeley,
Up
San
north.
Francisco?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Fun.
East Bay.
Yeah.
And then I came back, and I've been working for entertainment lawyers and gigging and
Yeah. And so now your base of operations is Nashville.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm like still getting acquainted with the city and like meeting people.
Yeah.
And
It's only been a couple months.
Yeah. I think I've been very burned out. So I wanted to get away, and I had this trip planned because my friend was getting married.
This trip that brought you back.
This trip right now, currently, I was like, okay, when I come home, I'm going to do sessions. I'm going to see if I can sing at the restaurant again and just like fit in all of the things, you know, and make it a little more palatable to do the things. Yeah, because this used to be my life where it was like I work and then have a session and then we go to a show and then there's like another thing the next day and the next day that, you know.
Yeah.
And then they just add up. And I feel like these last few months that I've been living in Nashville, I've been digesting the last like 4 years of things, like since stuff opened back up after the pandemic.
Yeah.
And you just don't get time to process when you're like working excessively.
No, you can't. It's like being asked to process something while you're in it. It's pretty much impossible to get any kind of clarity or like, you know, just a perspective on anything.
Right.
So how do you find it being in Nashville? Is it a little slower? Is it like more to you like it?
I love it.
Yeah?
Everyone's like, it's so boring. What do you do all day? And I'm like, I can just hang out with myself.
I love hanging out. I really do.
What about a puzzle here and there?
Yeah,
what's so wrong with that?
Sounds like the dream, honestly. I don't really know Nashville, which I know, like, I've toured through it a few times, and so I've been on that Broadway strip. Right. That's what it's called, right? And, like, it hasn't really spoken to me, and I know it has become, like, a destination for LA musicians to go and just, like, stake their claim doing a certain type of work that I think is maybe more abundant out there. I just don't know enough about it. Yeah. But I guess there would have to be, like, a whole other aspect to life there. Are you trying to do like gigging stuff out there or session work? Yeah. You're trying to be the next American country star?
I don't really know a lot about country, which felt like awkward going there. But there's actually a lot of people moving from all over, mostly like other parts of the South.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, they're looking to do music of all kinds, like not just country. So
okay. Yeah.
It seems like it's opening up for other genres right now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Have you found it, like, are you meeting other people who are doing the kind of stuff you like? Other like-minded
like
people?
R&B and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
R&B, jazz. We used to sing a lot of jazz.
Yeah. I do a little bit of that. I'm actually like trying to get into rock, which I've been trying to do here, and there just isn't a scene for that, really.
You know, that's an interesting thing, because I feel like rock music has become like there's something a little cringe now about like rocking.
Yes.
Which kind of sucks because I love rock music.
Yeah. What kind of rock do you like, or did you listen to?
Well, I mean, at this point now, my relationship to music is kind of like a little bit removed from anything like where I'm not like emotionally invested like I was when I was a kid. But like Rage Against the Machine. Like there's, like the idea of a band like Rage Against the Machine, which is so like the ethos of it is like, we're mad.
It's in the name.
It's in the name.
Yeah.
And like, can you really do that now? I feel like the aesthetics of it are co-opted as just like another stylistic option. It's like a color palette. When you go to Home Depot and you look at the Sherwin-Williams paint, demos. Yeah, it's just like we can have like Paramore rock or like, Chili Peppers rock. Like these are all just different flavors that you can have on your record. And like you hear like the influence of it, but it's kind of just like a nod to a concept rather than something that is genuine.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But isn't that like all music right now? That's...
Maybe. I mean, I can only speak to being here in LA, which is where I'm at like 80% of the year. Because when I travel, I usually don't really think, unless I'm like on the road, but then I'm kind of just focused on whatever that project may happen to be. So yeah, but that's cool. I mean, if there's rock happening in Nashville, maybe it's time to move to Nashville.
Maybe.
How do you find it coming back to LA? Do you feel like you're energized at all? Like this energy here is working for you, or you're just like, I can't wait to get back out?
I've been counting down the days to get home.
Really?
I'm so sorry.
How long have you been here? No, don't be sorry. I mean, you got to do what works for you.
Gosh.
I also kind of had a similar experience because I didn't grow up in New York, but I lived there. And when I first lived in New York, I was like, oh, I'm a New Yorker. Like
You're
everything about this. Yeah, like going
Right.
there energized me. Like all of the craziness of it, I got off on it and like I just loved it. And then there was a turning point probably about 4.5, 5 years in where I was like, I don't need this anymore. But I didn't really have a landing point and I was too deeply in it to leave. I felt kind of stuck there. And then I would just like look around at these people. I was just like, God, people who live in New York their whole life, like it turns them nuts.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to be one of these people. And I think it's okay for me to like figure out where else I want to go. And I thought about Seattle was a place that I was thinking about. I thought about New Orleans, but I was like, for sure I will die. And this is before I got sober.
I mean, yeah. Like under a bridge type of situation.
No question. I was like,
I was there for a couple days and I was like, liver failure.
Yeah, 6 months. 6 months and I'm jaundice skin, yellow eyes, like the whole thing, like gone.
Yeah.
And then the other place I considered was Austin, which I'm kind of glad I didn't do now for various reasons. Nothing against Austin in particular, but I think that the promise of Austin kind of outweighs the reality of Austin.
I just never feel...
They're going to come for me in the comments.
I know. I'm like, I don't know. I never feel great going there. And
really?
The last time I was there, V knows, I literally saw someone get killed. So,
you did?
Yeah. During South by.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was like a drunk driver sped through.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And
yeah,
that was insane. And the drunk driving there too is just like,
yeah.
So sorry.
No, we don't do that here.
Yeah. We don't talk about dying on this.
It was so funny.
I'm sorry, but this is the music scene. You guys have to talk about the realities of dying. Yeah.
But so all that is to say is I settled on LA because I had come a few times for gigs and I was like, this to me kind of represents the middle ground of it's got the nature, it's got the beaches, it's got the weather, it's got the in and out, which was, still a novelty.
Selling point.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
At the time, Umami Burger was very popular. If you remember the glory days of Umami Burger.
They have great burgers here.
Yeah, they do.
I'm a burger person.
I know you are.
Yeah.
I remember from the times that we've eaten burgers together.
I love burgers.
What's your number one burger in LA?
Burgers never say die.
So I haven't been there
that's
yet.
the best one.
That's the best one?
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, maybe we could go after.
It was interesting, though, what you're saying about being fed on a gig. And like, I kind of learned this in a weird roundabout way, specifically with drinking, where I was like, I don't need to drink every drink that gets shoved my way,
Sure.
And this is even like well before I like got sober. I was just like, I'd rather do drugs than drink.
Yeah.
And so like,
I mean, alcohol's like bad for everything.
It's
actually,
it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
even one drink a week can just throw it off. Like it throws off my sleep at least, and hydration. It gives me acne.
I've never known you to be a drinker, really.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't because I can't, and So I didn't actually get drunk until like 2 years ago or
For the
something.
first time?
For the very first time.
Why'd you do it?
Why?
Yeah.
Because I would get so nervous on gigs, honestly. And they would give me the drink ticket. And there was a guy I was dating who you are familiar with who was like, just have one drink.
Yeah.
It's not gonna, I don't know. I had like a crazy throw up phobia. That's called emetophobia. We're talking about a lot of like evil things on this episode, but
standard episode as far as I'm concerned.
Cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I didn't drink because I was scared to throw up, like even just one drink. But then I was like, okay, one drink. I'm not like losing my coordination
and
still,
your faculties remain intact.
Yeah. And so I started, then it was like one drink and maybe a shot or something like that. But I never go past like maybe 4 or 5, drinks in the course of a night. Like I just, and even that I'm like,
that for a smaller person, that's, a good amount.
Yeah. And that's very much like I've done that 3 times in my life,
Yeah. I mean, I had my glory years of throwing them back, but it is a net negative, and I never like to say anything like definitively, like, oh, drinking, like it's just
like you'll never do it again.
No. For me, I know that I can't, but I'm saying it for other people. It's like, oh, whatever, you have a drink, you have a drink. Like I don't cast that kind of a judgment on it because there's also like. It's in a way, I guess, maybe kind of a version of a placebo effect where it's just like, if you think that this is helping you, then it's helping you.
And it does help to sing a little bit.
Okay.
It does.
Yeah.
It like loosens everything.
Yeah.
And the next day, it definitely affects my vocal cords because of the dehydration.
Sure, yeah.
But in the moment, it definitely feels like they're more flexible.
Yeah.
Like they give a little more.
Yeah.
Which can sometimes be a little bit dangerous. Like, I don't know if you ever worked out when you were still using at all.
I really never did.
You didn't? Okay. Well, sometimes they advise to not get high, like if you're like a weed person.
Yeah.
Because you can injure yourself more easily.
Sure, yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah, because you're not feeling the limits as much,
Yeah.
So.
Well, I kind of had that problem with hot yoga.
Okay.
Because I would do Bikram yoga. This was when that was like really popular.
Too.
Yeah. I loved it at
years.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a good couple of years. And actually I was, this is before I really had like the problem that I ended up having, but I liked it because after an hour and a half in that hot room and they're telling you like pull, push, like go past your limit.
Yes.
And you kind of can because you're so loosened up.
Yeah.
But I felt like after a couple months of doing that, I was like, I feel worse than I did before.
Yeah.
So it's figuring out that, that thing.
The limits.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've spoken to people who have had problems because they're chasing that looseness that the couple drinks gives them. And a couple drinks turns into a lot of drinks, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing that it always comes back to is like, well, you have to figure out a way in your like sober mind to like access that place of peace that you are getting to, because that's within you. Like it's not the alcohol that's giving you that, but for whatever reason, like
you're
the
like
alcohol,
letting yourself, because there's this like the placebo thing you're talking about.
Yeah, like you open that door and like it doesn't happen immediately, and depending on how far down the road someone is of like depending on the thing, it is still something that you can access. I remember when I was introduced to like transcendental meditation, I was like, transcendental meditation, I'm like the hippie guy who loves, psychedelics. I'm like, this sounds to me like what I get out of psychedelics just from doing 20 minutes of meditation.
Yeah.
It's not. And I was pretty disappointed at first. But then like you find that it actually has something that is like a lot more, it's something that you can tap into that isn't like the full on, it's just different. I don't know, Yeah,
I mean, I didn't really touch substances like psychedelics until like a few years ago also. Like, for most of my 20s, I think we talked about this, I was in program but not for substances. I was in Al-Anon, which is like the sister program to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Great program.
And I was in that. I was also in Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous for many years, and I did a lot of spiritual work in there that kind of, it did for a while. I feel like it got me to this like high and mighty place that I also didn't love, and I could feel myself, and I would see it in other people in the rooms, where it's like, well, did you call your sponsor? Did you do the outreach calls? Did you journal? Did you?
Such a turn off. Yeah.
And those things help. Definitely. They give you this kind of like mental fortitude, spiritual fitness, as they call it.
Yeah, they do.
So yeah, by the time I feel like when I took a step back from 12-step things, then I was like, okay, maybe I'll have one drink. Maybe I'll try acid, which I love, Violet.
What's not to love about it? It was, it is a really powerful thing.
That one, I've only done it a few times because I'm like, it's too good.
Yeah.
It's just too good. I can't do it more than that.
In general, I think most normal people, and I'm not part of this group, but most normal people I don't think take, like a full day acid trip and then the next day go like, I want to ride that ride again. Like generally a few months, I
mean, you're so tired the next day, but I could see that in myself, like craving one. And I'm like, okay, so I have to wait another year.
Well, I also exempt myself from that because I was that person. I would love to. I mean,
just several days.
I was no sleep. I would just, New York City, like subways, whatever. I was just like the weirdness of it. I kind of loved that. But I also had this like diabolical train of thought, which was like, normal life isn't enough for me. Like I need this thing because it's more fun and engaging. And it's just like, well, who the hell am I to? Now looking back on it, I'm like, that's so arrogant. Like,
Well, I feel in your 20s and you're coming out of like being a child.
Yeah.
And you're on your own with your own money, and maybe there's things you haven't worked out emotionally. And sometimes real life isn't where it's at, like.
Yeah, but there's healthier ways to explore the layers of consciousness and wonder and mystery. And I think the idealistic part of me was looking for that, and then like what that ended up being was, for a while I was out there like, kind of half tripping like day in day out, and then like a couple months later, I'm pilled out on the train being like, this is what I'm after, this is it, man. It's just like that's not living either.
It's not living, no, but I think like it served a purpose to get you through to this side.
It obviously got me through some painful things that like we don't need to get into now, but it's interesting. So you got into 12-step. Was it Al-Anon first?
It was actually Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous first.
Yeah.
And
how'd you end up introduced to that program?
My gosh.
If you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to.
I love to talk about this stuff. I've never talked about it publicly like this, but I feel like it's really helpful for people out there to have as a resource, like it definitely.
Like any of this stuff.
Yeah, it helped me.
It's free.
At the time. Well, not exactly, And this is, we're talking about the seventh tradition stuff and the literature and all of these things, there is a cost. It's not the cost of therapy, it's not $200 an hour, but I think if you can't get therapy, it's like a really great thing.
And no one ever pressured me into giving in the seventh tradition. And maybe that's just being in AA or NA, but like, why? Were they like hustling you?
I think in the other programs, it's a little more important because I feel like the reach of Alcoholics Anonymous, the worldwide,
it's bigger.
It has, and don't think that they don't have money, because they do, there's money there, and I feel like that's why it's not as much of a thing for you guys to give seventh tradition as it is for the smaller programs, but basically.
Yeah, I mean, there's huge conventions.
Right.
I mean, I'm just thinking about it, like.
Those things all cost money.
They do.
Yeah. And you don't think about it because it's all for like, intergroup, and we're doing this, it's for fun and for free, and it's not really, but I'm like, don't find me and hurt me.
Oh, they might. Yeah.
But so when I was growing up, my mom...
We'll blur your face just for this part of the pod.
Change your voice.
Yeah, exactly.
No, my mom tried out a bunch of different religions, and we were going to Buddhist temple for many years, and we tried out different churches, and she definitely had a lot of instability. We grew up here. She was an actress. It's a very fickle industry, like more so than music in some ways, I feel, because you're just getting rejected. Like, so
I've heard that, and I can only imagine that it's just like so emotionally taxing to just be like cattle call auditioning, and like you're up against 100 people who look exactly like you, and all of those, and that's just like, I'm sure just surface level. I can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah. And I mean, she was a single mom with the two of us, like me and my brother. And
older, younger?
Younger brother.
Okay.
Yeah. And he actually struggled a lot with substances, which that's one of the reasons I ended up getting into Al-Anon.
Okay.
But yeah, so for me, like drugs and alcohol, I was like, they are the devil. I cannot touch.
Yeah.
Like, I will go crazy. And
understandable reaction.
Yeah. So my mom ended up in 12-step rooms, like a lot of different ones, because once you get into one, it's like, well, there's like Workaholics Anonymous, and there's like
there's a 12-step program for any itch
social
that you have
media.
to scratch.
I heard is like another one that they made.
Honestly, that's probably a pretty good one to have. I know there's a porn one.
Right. Well,
not that I need it, but porn, not that I actually don't. But I will say, just because we're kind of talking about this stuff, that shit is toxic, and like I have
there's
made a
so much research on it. How bad it is for your brain.
In the last year, I've pretty much knocked it out, and I have to say, of all the things, like besides the fact that I had like a debilitating hospitalized, drug problem, that kind of thing, like not watching porn has done so much for my mental health and just like presence of mind, and like the reaches of cutting that out the implications of it are deeper than I would have ever imagined them to be. Yeah,
I actually went through a detox with porn really early on.
Well, there you go.
I mean, I didn't even think of it as an abnormal thing because all the guys I was sleeping with were watching it too. So it was
it's crazy. Everyone is watching porn.
I mean, I think especially when we were growing up, it's like the internet, everyone has access to this thing, and you're like, sex.
Sure.
What is that?
Yeah. Well, I'm of that age too, where like it was, Pornhub sites and that's or whatever the hell they're, like.
Yeah, I don't know what that website is.
No, but that's not what I said. Pornhub, which is a specific site, but there's just those tube video sites, whatever they're called.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They weren't quite. So I was like downloading porn on LimeWire.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And
vintage.
It was just like,
That's vintage as fuck.
It was crazy. And definitely ruined the family computer a few times. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's crazy that I grew up with this thing that was like so around and
accessible
and toxic.
Yeah.
And then like, lonely in college, whatever. It was just like, who needs girlfriends,
Yeah. I mean, now they're making these robots. It's not really going away.
No, none of this stuff is going away. AI is here to stay. And now like AI movie, like, Hollywood is kind of, there's a few movies that I see now are being produced with AI. Mm-hmm. And another friend of mine who's a Hollywood producer is saying that she is specifically working to like develop within AI because she's like, it's not going anywhere. Okay, 12-step.
AI 12-step.
That'll be next. Yeah. Hey, ChatGPT, how's my 4th step?
Right.
Yeah.
Read it out.
Exactly.
To me. Sponsor me.
ChatGPT is my sponsor. How about that?
So 12-step. Okay. So I was kind of exposed to it from my mom But for me, it was just like another thing that my mom was into. Like, okay, now she's doing this, you know. When I was in my late teens, like senior year of high school, I started dating someone who had been in like an outpatient program
for drugs
for a while. Yeah. Okay. For cocaine and heroin.
Classic.
And I had dated like a few other heroin addicts in high school.
You really know how to pick them.
Well, they know how to pick me. How about that? You know, I didn't know. I had no idea they were doing this stuff.
Speaking as somebody who kept an opioid
narcotics
addiction,
users are secretive.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. Yeah.
So, yeah, I had no idea until after, you know, when they got sober and then they were like making amends to me and stuff. And I was like, that was heroin?
Yeah.
You know, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's very, it's not like alcohol smells, and it's like,
oh, I know,
you're like sloppy, and you know.
So to go back to what, just briefly, the thing about rejecting drinks that were free at the bar, it was just like, well, this is sloppy, it smells, I don't feel good when I do it. What does make me feel good are these magical substances that just like really put me in that same place as though it was like I'm 12 years old, it's a Saturday morning, and I don't have a care in the world. And I can just access that without having to work for it at all, no matter what the circumstances are around me. And I can have that comfort. And like, I just feel good. Yeah. And why wouldn't I want that? You know, like obviously this, and I'm not tired and I feel great, you know, and you have that period of a couple months where it really works.
Right.
And then it stops.
And then you're just chasing a dragon.
Yeah. Yeah. For years. And I mean, so that was kind of a version of that in my life, and kind of how it ended up becoming so attractive to me is like, this is just clearly the answer with all of the other things that are problematic and that I'm struggling with. Like, I don't have to struggle with them anymore. Social anxiety, gone. You know, like stress, gone. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, everything just melts off of you.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody tells you that, like, you know, you're gonna pay for this in serious ways, and until you do. And then, yeah.
The thing about growing up in LA was that drugs were really just everywhere.
I can imagine.
I dated drug dealers. I dated people that were, you know, around that scene. I had my best friends were blackout drinkers, and or they had access to their parents' medicine cabinets, and there was the Vicodin from the surgery, and their parents are traveling all the time, and they let them have house parties and all these things. So I would see this stuff, and I was always the friend that was like watching my other friends, and it was tough. And so anyways, I ended up dating this guy, and I was like, oh, finally, I'm not, you know, this guy's getting drug tested like every day. And he's going to meetings, and I was so in love with him. I would go to the meetings with him, and I loved going to the meetings. I mean, like, it's like going to stand-up shows, honestly, sometimes. Like, they're so funny in there, and like, people are really welcoming, and I was like really pretty badly bullied in high school, so I was looking for a place where people were nice to me. You know, that's it. That's all I wanted. It's
nice to hear that. It's nice to hear, like, you know, no matter what, like, there's always a seat for you here.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be sober. Like, just keep coming.
Right.
That's what, you know, and that is very warm, and to have a welcoming place like that. Like, it is still, for all of the issues of
there's still people in there, of course. There's still people in there. It's imperfect in that sense. Right.
Just like anything.
Yeah.
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 No, it's, I mean, because I first got introduced to it when I was 18. It resonated so the things that people were saying to me were like describing feelings that nobody else had ever said before.
How did you end up finding it? Were you just curious, or you had a friend?
But I got in trouble in high school for drugs, towards the end of high school. And by this point, I was one of those kids, like parents with the medicine cabinet. Not my parents, a little bit my parents.
A little bit his parents.
Mom, Dad, are you listening?
Right.
Either way, I was like,
you had access.
I'm deeper in this thing than I know, than I realized. And it kind of like, I had a moment of clarity where I was like, maybe I should like just ask the school if like what they think. So I went to like a counselor.
Okay.
And I was like,
That's really smart as self-aware.
Well, I kind of freaked myself out after like maybe like a good long year of like messing around and like smoking pot like before school, after school, during school, but then also like swallowing whatever pills I could find. The cough syrup.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like I was having fun. A lot of tripping, which so the school counselor was like, honestly, the fact that you're like bringing this up to me makes me think that you might want to consider doing an outpatient treatment program. And I was like, yeah. And also I was starting to get drug tested. So I was like, I don't even know if I sure.
At home?
No, because I got in trouble.
At the school they were doing it?
No, it was like a probationary thing.
Oh, okay. Because you were already like an adult. You were already 18?
There was an arrest was issued.
Okay. You were arrested.
I was arrested.
Okay. Wow.
I don't know why.
I didn't know that about you.
Bad boy.
Well,
Because you're so clean cut now. I didn't know.
Am I? All right, sure.
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
So you were arrested.
So I was arrested,
You were getting
and
drug
I was
tested.
worried that I wasn't going to be able to like get my shit together.
Okay.
So I went to outpatient, and that was they bring in people to do 12-step meetings at the thing because you're there like for an hour or two after school.
I've spoken at some of those.
So have I.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember hearing like a 40-year-old man just like telling me things about how I felt in the world and how out of place, I was like, there was this feeling that I always had of like no one, unrelatably depressed,
Yeah. Terminally unique.
Yeah.
As they say. Yeah.
It hit hard. And I was like, I'm in, and it was intoxicating. I felt like I found a new version of my identity that was being informed by people who had gone through similar experiences
and that were
me.
much older.
But also there was a good amount of people my age who were like in it, and it was really helpful. So then I was sober all through college, all through undergrad, and then I started drinking again after like 6-7 years of sobriety when I was young. And in my mind I was like, I was probably just a depressed kid. I kind of like revised the history of my own feelings and actions to suit what I wanted at the time, which was to just be normal. I was like, I just want to be normal. I want to be able to take girls out on dates. I want to be able to drink on a gig. I want to be able to have fun. I felt like I didn't have a college experience that suited what I was after, And I kind of decided that in retrospect. And like at first everything was fine. And then it stopped being fine, and I ended up kind of where I'm at now.
I never saw that side of you. I've only ever seen this, so it's like
you and
hard
I met,
for me to imagine.
I think I was around a year sober at the time.
Yeah.
And I was also, that was about 6 months-ish into having been recently single again. And the combination of like the dire need for me to get sober again, plus getting on the backside of and out of that relationship, it was like I really came into this version of myself that was like pretty on fire.
Yeah.
At the time I was like, I probably was nuts in other ways.
I mean, you're one of probably my favorite guitar player to do shows with.
Aw.
I mean, I just have had such a hard time finding the right person, who's not trying to be the lead and trying to like outshine it's like, I'm the singer, let me do that, and then you can have your moments. Yeah. Because I love when you have your moments and I let you, I feel like, explore and do,
You do.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
that's also sort of like, it's for the most part doing the kind of gigs that we've done, which are like, multi-set in a night. It's like everyone's going to have
their moment. Exactly.
Yeah. I just want to talk to you a little bit more about this.
The program stuff.
About the program stuff, just because I know I've gotten a lot out of it. I mean, I've learned how to live my life essentially by following program principles.
Me too. Yeah.
I'm not really as active in it as I was.
Have you done the 12 steps?
Oh, yeah, I've done them a few times.
Okay.
So like that's the thing, is I have gone through that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too, is like there is sort of that element of it of like, is that enough? And they'll kind of hold that over you.
They do.
They do.
Which is why I just decided to
When did you
pull completely back?
That was what. No, I mean, I'm curious about when you pulled back, but have you noticed a difference in how you feel like since being more involved with it versus not?
I started going to meetings regularly through this boyfriend, and then we broke up. He relapsed shortly after that, and then we started this like years-long on again, off again thing, and I felt like every time I'd be off again, I was going to die. I felt so addicted to this relationship. And I was like, maybe if I get into a program, then we will be together and we will both be sober. And, you know, I need to learn how to like accept whenever he's off the wagon and whatever. Because he would get sober and then he would start using again, and that would influence, you know, we would always get back when he was sober again. And then as soon as he would start using, it was like, you know, very much.
Would he lose interest, or were you just like, I'm not dealing with this?
Oh, it was always him.
Yeah.
Always him ending it. Yeah. It was like, you know, he would just disappear into the night because that's how it goes.
Yeah.
And so I started going because my friend was in a community college class where she had to write a research paper, and one of the topics was sex and love addiction. And she was like, Vicky, I think you have this, and I think I have this. So we went to a meeting as part of her research, and we were kind of looking at each other like, oh my God, these people are all saying the things that, you know.
Yeah.
And it was ranging from all sorts of, you know, like, I stalk this guy at his job. Like, I just wait outside of his job. I wait for him to get off work because I want to make sure he's not cheating on me.
Yeah.
And the woman's married to someone else.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, crazy shit like that.
Yeah.
And we started going like every Saturday to this one meeting. And then we started going to more meetings, and then we started getting asked to speak at meetings. And it was really like me and my best friend at the time, we were just like really keeping each other in check. But then...
And how old were you?
I was 19.
Wow.
And that's the thing is like at that age, I feel like who isn't having messy relationships as an 18, 19? I was a teenager when I got in there.
I was in the same boat doing 12-step at 19.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like it did give me a lot of these like skills, like commitment skills of like going and bringing the chips, and I'm responsible for bringing the chips that day. And like, I have to talk to people even if I feel painfully shy. I have to speak. I have to be very vulnerable in front of all these people. And and it was like, I signed up to do this thing. I couldn't just like back out and be like a little kid about stuff anymore. So, you know, in part like why I'm even able to be here right now and like speaking to you and to, you know, whoever watches this, like me and you afterwards.
My mom might watch.
And your mom. Yeah. Hi. And and so it gave me a lot of skills that I needed, you know. But I wasn't driving at the time and living in LA and going to all these meetings.
Yeah.
And I was working and I was a student, and they would be like, if you're not getting to 90 meetings in 90 days, and whatever, all the things.
That's a big one.
All the things that they kind of hold over your head. But I did start working on the steps like pretty immediately.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was kind of sad about SLAA was that doesn't really happen in the other programs from what I've heard, is that people leave a lot. Like basically once they get married, the thing that I don't know if you hear this in AA, is like find someone that has what you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
For your sponsor, for the people that you do outreach with. And at first it was easy because I was like in the gutter, you know, I was in like a really dark, like lost, I don't know who I am. I just really didn't know who I am. And it was like, I have to find hobbies, like the self-care stuff. I was like, what do I even like to do in my free time? Like if I'm not codependently attached to a friend or like waiting for this guy to text me back. Who am I?
Yeah, and your endorphins are all messed up because you're used to chasing after this thing that gets you high, you know?
Yeah.
Or even experiencing the lows of it is like a form of, you know, intoxication and
absolutely. Yeah, the pining is such a place for me that I was like, this makes me a good songwriter. This makes me a better, you know, whatever. It gives me this depth or something.
Yeah, my creativity is now contingent on allowing
suffering.
myself to seesaw on this emotional roller coaster, whatever the different rides are. Yeah.
So it was good. I think in the beginning, especially, I got so much community that I was looking for. And it gave me also, I think, like the discipline to be able to sit down and go through college, study, you know, show up, quit porn. You know, I haven't watched porn since I was 19.
Hey, high five.
Air high five. Yeah. I did a research paper about that. So
that's good.
Yeah, there's a lot of great books out there about it, and documentaries.
Yeah.
And the thing with like SLAA that's different from alcohol is like you need to find ways to incorporate it back into your life. It's not like alcohol where you just cut it forever.
Yeah, and that was something I was thinking of when you were saying that people leave is because, you know, a lot like 12-step programs that are based on behavioral issues.
Process addictions, yeah.
Yeah, because like a substance issue is like, it's going to be the same for me no matter what happens. You know, no matter what's going on in my life, if I take a drug or I take a drink, it's going to, you know, start that same chain reaction. People need to eat food. People need to be in relationships. Yeah, exactly. So like, the recovery for those things is behavioral. And it's interesting when you get into the psychology of addiction, because I know as like I'm an addictive person, so like I get addicted to Severance, you know, like I get addicted to anything that like I can kind of get lost in. But I can see the connection, and like thankfully I have a substance addiction that sort of taught me, oh, this is how I am. And like if I just like take the microscope up to anything, I can see that I treat those things that way. So I think it's a little bit more nuanced in cases like this where it's just like, what do you,
Yeah, and the thing with that sort of program, I don't know if you want to hear about like how people talk about sobriety there, because it is like very different from,
sure.
So you have these what are called bottom lines of behavior.
Okay.
And then you have top lines. So top lines are good things. They're things that you do to stay away from the bottom lines.
Yeah, top line. Didn't spend 3 hours swiping on Hinge. Didn't, I don't know. I'm just assuming.
No, it would be like workout, you know, go for a run is a top line.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Or like play with my dog or...
But I love doing them. I love doing both of those things.
Exactly. Top lines.
Yeah.
Those are things that would go in your top lines. And then for your bottom lines, you have whatever those things would be. So like not stalking their Instagram profile or like don't text this person or it would be texting this person. You know, that's a bottom line.
Yeah.
So if you break it, then you lose sobriety. You start your day count over.
Okay.
And so what might be a bottom line for one person might not be a bottom line at all for you.
Interesting.
You know, and so for a while
so
it was
the terms of your sobriety are malleable and individualized.
And you can keep changing them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like it can be, but in other ways it's like
I feel like you can if you're a self-deceiver. Like
but that's why you get the sponsor.
And
you go through,
not ChatGPT.
Well, maybe you can input certain things into ChatGPT and they might be able to like sort through
but
things.
ChatGPT can never look you in the eye and go, you're
a fucking liar.
Bullshitting me right now.
Which a sponsor does.
Ideally.
Yeah. But so when you do your first step, you know, the admitting you have a problem or whatever, there's a workbook that they have that walks you through your history.
I love a workbook.
I love the workbook.
That's why I work the steps out of the NA. The NA has a workbook.
I did that. Dude, I did that one.
It's so easy.
Magical. It's magical.
I mean, it kind of makes sense.
It's life-changing.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And then, you know, time passed and I was in these relationships. I felt like the relationship advice that they give, because they kind of put you on this like relationship elevator when you get in there. It has these like Judeo-Christian like influences of like,
what's a relationship elevator?
it's like you start dating and then you move in together and then you get married and then you have babies and then, you know, and so everyone's kind of like in that when you build, so they have like a dating plan, which I think Narcotics Anonymous does, maybe.
No.
I think they do.
No, I mean, they sort of tell you to not date within your first year.
Within the first year.
But that's like the extent of it, you know.
Well, I've
there's
heard
all kind of
from,
creepos on their 13th stepping.
Yes,
you
we know
there's
about that. Which is what? What would you define that as?
13th stepping is preying on newcomers who are, you know.
Because there's only 12 steps.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super predatory.
So it's an extra thing. And that was happening a lot to me in the meetings. You know, I'm going in there as a 19-year-old. I'm like one of the young. I'm like the youngest person in most of those meetings at the time. And it would be like guys in their 30s, 40s, 50s, you know, married, a lot of them. They'd be like, "Oh, are you new?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I've actually been in here for like a year, 2 years." And they'd be like, "Oh, well, keep coming back." And I'd be like, "That's right. Walk away now. Take a step back." Yeah. So I started seeing, you know, okay, so I can only go to the all women meetings, you know, stag meetings. I couldn't go to the mixed meetings, and I would start hearing these stories from women who would have these like horrible sexual assault experiences, like because they dated someone in the rooms that, and the thing is that it's an anonymous program.
Yeah.
So there's no like reporting, you know, you can't, people would have stalkers coming to these meetings. Yes. And
you can't tell them to leave.
You can't. There's no like, hey, we refuse the, you know, we're not going to have you in here or whatever.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of things I started being like, I don't like that, you know, and I'm getting older. I'm starting to like see through some of these things as like, I'm not a teenager anymore. Like, and now there's like younger girls than me in there, and I'm starting to feel a little protective over it. So I started noticing that, and then I started contributing to the literature. So I'm.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I speak Spanish as my first language.
Yeah.
So I started doing translations of one of the texts, because all of the literature is made by the people in the rooms. Yeah. And SLAA is like a relatively newer program, so we don't have as much, you know, pamphlets and all these things. Anyways, so I started doing translations for these texts, and I remember people outside of program would be like, "Oh, like, are you getting paid?" And I'd be like, "Of course not. You know, this is for fun and for free. I want to do this, whatever." So then there was this whole thing, because in English, when you're speaking from the I, there's like no gender implication in the language. Pronoun? Yeah. And so then in Spanish, I was trying to translate these in a way that could be read by everyone. Sure. And also seeing like the trends of like the non-binary language. Yeah. So I was trying to incorporate this, and then it was this whole thing where like I had to go to all these committees and get it approved, because well, who's going to understand if there's like an X or like an E or you know, whatever the neuter version is. So it was like all these things, and people like really treating me awfully because they do the program in this way and I'm not doing it in whatever. And at this point, like I had done the steps like almost twice through. I've sponsored people. I've like gone, and I'm just like, you know, you guys aren't really acting like it says in these books. Just kind of like any other religious, you know, organization or whatever. And I started kind of getting kind of curious and asking people about, okay, so like, where does this money go for the literature? Okay, it goes to
now you're asking questions.
Yeah, I started, you know, and then it's like, okay, there's this conference, and then, you know, you keep going to the, like, it gets more political in a way. Like there's the representative of each county, and then there's the representative for each state, and then you go to these like meetings, and those people are getting paid. Like we are paying for them. And I don't know how AA works or any of that.
No,
But
like, because we had like general service representatives, regional service representatives, but all of those, that's all just like, those are part of your, you know, the service work.
But it's like you're paying for them to get flown out to go to these things. You're writing literature anonymously. I'm doing these translations anonymously. So there's like no royalties going back to anyone who contributes to this stuff. And like I want to think that there's this like higher purpose for it and that the words of the program are getting transmitted.
Well, I think the idealistic perspective is you do this as an act of service, not to get anything back from it. You know? And
of course.
If that's getting twisted by some weird bureaucratic thing where people are putting their pockets into or their hands in the pot, you know, then that's like, that's fine.
And then when I would get asked to speak, I would get asked to speak a lot at mixed meetings. And I was like talking about all of these concerns. You know, it's like I love what this program has done for my life. I love what I've, you know, seen it do for others. There's so much good in the text and in the workbooks and the workshops and the people I've met, you know. But at the same time, like, there's some extremely predatory men in here. Nobody's saying anything about it because it's all anonymous and people are wondering whether we should like report certain things to the police, whatever. These are guys that are like holding higher service positions also. So it's it's kind of tricky, whatever. I spoke about this in the meeting and I was like, you know, certain people were sharing like, I've never had that experience and like, how dare you, you know, and then there were other people that were like, thank you so much for finally saying something about this.
Sure.
Like, I was assaulted by some, you know, so many people came to me privately to talk to me, like, and that just kind of was like, and then there was a situation at the very end where I was friends with these girls that were around the same age as me, and then I found out that they were basically in a cult.
Okay.
And the cult leader was like taking all of the 12-step stuff and basically running this like sober living, you know, of his own making. And it
Jonestown.
And actually he was like smoking crack, taking all of their money. I'm not joking. I mean, this guy died like last year and the people finally got out of the cult. But like, you've met one of my friends.
I was wondering if there was a connection there. Yes, I have.
He's met two of them.
Oh, right.
You know, I do hope that people who hear this can still recognize that like these are programs that like should and potentially have like,
I tried to give a compliment sandwich, you know? Like it did just change my life. But I think going into it, like take it with a grain of salt. Like take what you like and leave the rest. Which is what they say in there, you know?
So definitely thanks for sharing that and like getting into it. Because I don't know that much about SLAA, first of all.
Very different program.
Different program. I mean, there's like some of the big picture stuff they have in common, but not everything. And then, I mean, that's fucking real shit. So I'm glad that you felt comfortable to share that stuff and to come on the show and do it.
I'm happy to.
So it does, this is, we do have a segment planned, and this is one that V kind of, I'm not going to put this all on you.
Yeah, I was like,
I thought it'd be funny because V has told me that you are a TikTok person. So I was like, let's get into some Vic talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're talking about different TikTok trends.
Okay.
It's an older one.
It's an older one where he's a 10, but you know. So speaking of AI, I had AI come up with a bunch of different people.
Like celebrities or
no
people we know?
No. This is all AI generated.
Okay.
So like
these actual guys.
These are actual people.
Oh my
and it's
God.
men and women.
Okay.
So like this first guy, for example.
Okay.
We'll have the images up on the screen.
So I have to say he's a 10 butt.
He's a 10 butt. Like what would his butt be? I have a thought about that first guy. And by the way, that first guy came from ChatGPT.
He kind of looks like me.
He's a 10, but he
No?
looks like you?
He's a 10, but he looks like he'd be my cousin.
He's pretty ambiguous, honestly. Okay, fine. He's a 10, but he's your cousin.
Yeah.
You can just swipe.
Right.
I want to see the
Left. Okay, this is a girl.
Yeah. Pretty much
Okay.
the girl version of him, if I remember.
Okay,
Okay.
so for her, you see what she looks like.
Yeah.
Except she's a massive Sunny Baby. She has a massive Sunny Baby
Me.
collection that she has started an Instagram account for and has a personality for each Sunny Baby.
She's a 10. The next one is this guy.
Okay.
Country guy.
Let's see.
Already I'm like,
I know, I was going to say I want to try.
but go ahead.
Okay. He can speak every language fluently and he never gets sick, but he hates watching movies.
Okay, that's like a 3. Okay.
Okay.
This one?
Okay, him.
Okay.
But he showers every day and is extremely well groomed.
So the other people don't? Is what you're saying?
Him more so.
Probably a 3, also 2, 3. Okay. Okay, this one looks like underage.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, maybe we
I'm
can
like,
swipe
I
that.
don't know. I feel like that's wrong, even though it's a computer.
Even though it's a computer.
Okay, this guy looks like a computer.
Okay.
Completely.
So
This is not a person.
I love
Bare
this.
feet.
Why
It is
is that
bare
man
feet.
in a suit?
And the hands are always fucked up on them. I hate
Ew,
that.
how many fingers does he have?
It's like hidden behind his leg, kind of.
He only ever eats fruit and nothing else.
His teeth are gonna fall out, so no. 0.
Yeah, but that's a future problem.
That's a now problem.
You gotta live in the moment.
No.
Breath is very important.
Breath is so important.
Next.
Okay, this girl, smash. Yeah.
Yeah, she looks like a Bond villain, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
But
but she doesn't understand brain rot humor at all.
She kind of that's the impression I get just from looking at her.
Yeah.
I don't think she's spending time on reels.
I'm
Still smash.
still smash. 8. Okay, this guy,
Let me see. Okay.
Is that a
So-
guy?
is that a guy? Maybe.
Lil Andro.
When they clean the kitchen, they only ever use disposable Clorox wipes and never wrings out the sponge.
I knew a person that did this actually that I lived with. 4.
Honestly, that's not really a problem for me. How's the cooking?
Oh, wow.
That's the real question.
But if they don't let me clean, if they're like, no, I need to clean and it has to be like this.
Then that seems
Because
like,
that has happened. There is a person
Yeah,
that
but
was that.
that's a specific experience.
And then they would use the same Clorox wipes for the bathroom as the kitchen.
Oh, well, yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like
Okay, fine.
you guys have some serious specific
him?
things. Yeah.
Smash.
Little Ren Fair vibes. I know. Yeah.
Well, he's like, he's got a playful side to
Totally.
him.
There
Plus,
needs to be.
he's Asian,
Yeah, but he wants to have a rug in every room of the house.
I would let him.
Why is that a problem?
Okay, him. Discipline.
Yeah, that's the Kung Fu
He's-
master.
Yeah, I like
Never
someone who
changes
does-
the toilet paper roll.
That guy?
Annoying. He would, though.
Yeah,
he
definitely.
so would.
Yeah.
He would do it for me.
That
He would
guy's
change for
that
me.
guy's cleaning baseboards, changing toilet paper rolls. Like I don't think there's anything out of place in his dojo for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. Did I finish them? Did I?
No, there's
Is that a random person?
There's another farmer. Is this because I moved to Tennessee? You
Yeah,
guys
maybe.
are
I believe in
like,
climate
maybe.
change.
that guy does not. That guy's
He
been driving
doesn't.
the same Chevy pickup truck for a long time.
and he thinks washing his ass is gay.
And he's not wrong. Thank you for sharing your vulnerable secrets and self and being the best version of you today. It's been
Aw.
awesome. It's great to see you. It's been a long
It's great
time.
to see you.
I'm glad you're here. And there's only one more thing that you have to do. Look into the camera and say, I put my pants on one leg at a time.
I put my pants on one leg at a time.
You heard it here first. Folks, thanks for tuning in and we'll see you next week. Yeah.
your pants